Welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid. And without further ado, I'd like to bring in my colleague, this author, journalist, and a international personality. I got his Martin Sieff. Hopefully, we don't have any problems. How's it going today? I can't hear you. Hold on. I think they're blocking your microphone. It says cannot unmute your guest because your microphone is on your end is muted. So we'll wait for.
How is that? That should be fine now.
Yeah. How's it going today?
So far, so good, but the day is young and I'm Northern Irish, so bad things can still happen.
Well, there seems like a lot of bad things are happening for the Western world and the Western Empire. I was looking at Sputnik. I don't know if they pronounce it Sputnik or Sputnik.
I think either would be fine, probably, but go on.
Okay. Well, they were just talking about the U.S. dollar, and we know how much the U.S. military and the Western world depends on dollar hegemony for their wealth, their influence, and their power. And as the show started, I flipped to Sputnik News, and it has an article says growing use of yuan in Russia-China trade eroding dollar dominance. And we'll take a look at what the first one or two paragraphs says. It says dollar de-dollarization has become a buzzword of late, with ways to sidestep the greenback via boosted trade in local currencies, such as China's yuan, a key item on the agenda of the recent BRICS summit. Furthermore, the dollar ditching debate has been fueled by the U.S. currency's precarious global position as prospects of a recession looms. Now, Martin, we know that the U.S. dollar is the lifeblood of the U.S. military, the U.S. empire, and even the Western world and its clout. Do you think that the United States has put itself in a conundrum, a catch-22, if you will, by abusing and misusing the dollar and alienating nation after nation with sanctions? And are we living in the blowback effect of those irrational, insane policies?
Yes, we are, Rashid. You've nailed it. And again, we always have already this going on joke between us. And it's true. I don't have to say anything. All I have to say is nod my head and give you a thumbs up because you've summed it up, man. You've defined it. That is the issue. Now, I can go and, do a dance on this now, and I happily will, for the audience. But you've already made the key point. And a further point is I noticed a very eminent, I didn't even catch his name, but a very eminent, I think, Italian financier speaking to right before you came on, and you had it on this channel.
Ingdahl, F. William Ingdahl from Germany.
Yes. Oh, he was brilliant. Absolutely. And he said that the United States economy is in such a mess that Jesus Christ himself could not save it. Now, I would not limit Jesus Christ that way. He could save it, but I would say, but the point is he's not going to because
This settlement check completely changed my life, and it came from a car accident. I almost forgot.
Consequences of their own actions. And as he pointed out, and as you pointed out, this is inevitable. The wonder is it has been so long in coming. First, our stupid, greedy, corrupt elites for more than 50 years now have allowed American industrial dominance, the greatest source of wealth generation in the history of the world, to be outsourced for narrow, cheap, short-term profits all around the world, but primarily to China. So even 20 years ago, the London Economist magazine, which is very liberal and free market and free trade, and Adam Smith and open borders and all this poisonous nonsense. I mean, This is the AIDS of society. AIDS destroys the ability of the body to defend, the immune system to defend itself against any infection. That's why anyone who gets AIDS gets a million horrific illnesses if they're not treated immediately afterwards. But we have been suffering liberalism, and Cato Institute and open markets and free trade are the AIDS of civilization and society. They destroy the ability of society to defend its industry, to defend its borders, to defend its own people, black, white, Asian alike. All of it. And China does not follow these policies. If you look at China's policies for the past 40 years, they are exactly the same policies the United States followed after the Civil War, when it was building for 60, 70 years, when it was building up industrial America, the most powerful industrial force in the history of the world. And in the past 50 years, our corrupt elites have stupidly thrown it away, and our intellectual middle class have been so stupid that they didn't raise a finger to object to it. No, they're in favor of it. You read Tom Friedman, you read the New York Times, you slit your own throat. You're intellectually respectable, you know you're a genius. And other people like you and me and working class people, black and white alike in this country and Hispanic, were always the ones who suffer. It's always the ordinary people at the bottom of the pyramid. And I suggested 20 years ago that we should outsource Thomas Friedman, that we should outsource all the pundits of the Washington Post and the LA Times and the New York Times and CNN. Because there are so many bright people there in Mexico and Latin America, across Africa. There are now 700,000 startup IT operations across Africa alone, let alone across Asia. Send it to India. India speaks English fluently. It has an enormous population, biggest population in the world, and their intellectuals, they still have a free press. They have a million different publications and that freely attack each other and attack the government and defend the government as well. They have free and open debate, which we have thrown away totally, except, of course, for the Red Pill Diaries and outlets like Rogue Radio and TNT Radio and all our friends. The great Professor Edward Lozansky, who started life as a Soviet dissident and is now an American dissident, a very interesting life evolution, right? You must come on sometime. I mean, the two of you look so different, but on every fundamental issue, you're exactly on the same page. He said to me 9 years ago, the United States is turning itself into the Soviet Union, and they do not even realize they are doing it. Well, we have done it, and here are the consequences: a collapsing economy. At the same time, as you just pointed out, we have to lecture the world that we are superior to everyone else when we very clearly aren't. The world's greatest democracy in the history of the universe that the universe has ever seen should not have 100,000 people dying of fentanyl drug addiction and poisoning every year, yet we do. How perfect is that? Is this what we are trying to impose on Ukraine? Is it what we want to give Russia and China as our great gifts? Is this the shining city on the hill that the 17th century guys who turned a blind eye to slavery, let us always remember? But is this what they had in mind? Maybe it is, because I mean, there was cognitive dissonance there. They were hypocrites, right?
Right.
Jefferson writes the Declaration of Independence, and he keeps his own black children as slaves during his lifetime. Right? You know, how wonderful is that? You know, well, yay!
You know, when we're dealing with these people in America, excuse me, I think that
make this one simple change when filling out
as the collapse steamrolls and picks up steam, I believe they become more detached from reality, and they become more desperate. And I often quote Gerald Celente when he says, when people lose everything, they lose it. And I believe the policies that those people in office, in power, are enacting are desperate policies, because they see the ramifications of the policies prior to that, and thinking that they're making it better, they are making it 10 and 20 and 30 times worse. And they believe that they are wise enough to see through all of the chaos and darkness, when in reality they're dumb as bricks, and they're helping to deconstruct the American empire. What have you to say on that matter?
What I always say to you, I agree with you 100%. And everybody says, oh yes, what a wonderful idea, HR. No, it will ruin your company every time. It has ruined your company every time. If you have one and you're struggling to survive, those are the people to fire. That's the first place to make savings. They're not productive, and they're what happened to JFK or FK would happen to her.
Well, that's a mic drop moment there. So I want to thank you for joining us today on this episode of the Red Pill Diaries. We're going to try to have you back when you come back in town, and you have as you and I discussed behind the scenes. We'll have you back on soon. Thank you so much, Martin, for everything. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Rashid, my friend, it is a pleasure and a privilege and a joy. Thank you, my friend.
Be blessed. Everybody who's listening to the Red Pill Diaries, let me say this to each and every one of you all. I want to thank you for the time that you have allotted us at this moment to give ear to some of the things that we've said, because this world is crashing and burning, and you need the information that will put you in the best position to survive the crash. And you need to start looking at each other in a more humble way and do good, not because someone is watching you. Do good because it's the right thing to do. Because remember, ultimately, someone is watching you, and it's the supreme being. So on that note, hit the like button and subscribe, share this thing. Try to look within yourself. If you have grudges with somebody, forgive. You never know how much time you have. Time is a limited resource, and so it is an unrenewable resource also. You only have a finite amount of time. So try to better yourself in the allotted time that God has given you. Know that if you love truth, I love you, but my love will always pale in comparison to the love that the Supreme Being has for you. And until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true.
Amen,
but
brother.
of all things, stay righteous. Mama, your baby boy loves you more than life, everybody. Deuces, and thank you all.